Hi everyone, welcome back to another continuing education check-in. Today we're going to be talking about lowering the stakes in dating and what that means, if we think that everyone should buy into that. And we'll wrap up today's episode with another red flag, green flag, and we hope that you're excited. And so I wanted to ask first, what does it mean to lower the stakes? How are you defining that? What goes into all of that?
I'll let you answer your own question first.
Okay. Well, I'll take a stab at it and then we'll see if you have anything to add. Mm-hmm. So I feel like in today's day and age, it's really hard to just go on a first date with someone. It feels like there's a long checklist that everyone has, and it's really easy to get the ick. And because dating is so accessible through dating apps and online sites, it almost feels like we can kind of pick and choose. And why would we go on a first date with someone that we don't really know?
Right.
And so lowering the stakes to me means that we can reduce the pressure when it comes to dating. And if someone asks you on a first date, lowering the stakes means saying yes. Even if you don't know, like, if they check all the check boxes. Of course, with a caveat that if there's any red flags or deal breakers, you still say no.
I think, yeah, I would agree with that definition. And then, but I would say it also could apply to, like, later when, like, a little bit later in dating when the stakes also feel like there's a lot. Because, like, right now we're talking about, like, in the beginning of, like, going on that first date. And we had that episode about you should always go on a first date. And I agree exactly with what you said. Unless they have, like, a huge red flag, like, maybe you'll be pleasantly surprised. But I feel like lowering the stakes is, like, you know, if you're going on that first date, like, you don't have to expect them to be, like, the one. And you don't have to expect that you immediately start becoming boyfriend and girlfriend. Like, it's okay to have a couple of dates that don't go well. And I think you're right, especially with today's, like, culture. It's, like, hard to accept that because you're, like, you're filtering this person through so much of your criteria that, like, honestly, you shouldn't even be able to meet at some points. And then you're just like, well, if I'm going on this date now, finally, like, you have to be the one. And I feel like I've definitely fallen into that trap a lot where I'm just like, oh, I'm expecting this person to, like, be perfect, and, like, the bar's so high and there's so much pressure.
It almost reminds me of that meme, that girl who wants a finance bro. How does it go again? 6 foot, 6 figures, and blue eyes.
6'5", blue eyes, trust fund, 6'5", blue eyes. Sorry, I had to, like, sing the song a little bit.
Thank you. I knew you didn't know, and I knew I got it wrong, but I got, like, the basic idea right. And of course, like, that was done as a joke, but it's like joking about our current dating culture, and it's also, I think, perpetuated because of, like, social media, and we see, like, all the criteria that other people have.
True.
Exactly.
Because now, like, I'm a really short person. I'm, like, 5 feet tall at most. And I have other friends that are, like, 5'1", 5'2", 5'3", and, like, we're all considered short. But because of, like, maybe this song or just because of, like, the dating culture, like, if I'm ever on, like, a dating app or something and I'm, like, swiping through and I'm just, like, I see a 5, I'll just swipe away. Which, like, hello, who gave me the audacity? Because, like why do I want someone who's 6 foot plus? But that's just because I'm like, well, my other friends who are my same height want it, so, like, why shouldn't I also get the same? So you're right, like, today's culture, like, you keep tacking on other people's checklist onto your own because you're like, well, maybe I can make mine even more perfect than what I wanted.
And maybe that wasn't a super big deal to you in the beginning, like, height, but then it starts off as someone else's, like,
opinion,
and then you're like, oh, I want someone to, like, tower over me, and, like, that will make me feel protected.
It makes me feel like I'm less than when I'm seeing my other friends and they're like, oh, like, if he's not 6 feet, I won't do it, and I'm like, well, am I garbage or something? Why would I do it if it's, like, if he's not 6 feet?
And it could also make you start judging your own partner, like, if you were dating someone already, and
it's like, how did I settle for someone who's not? Because, like, historically, I've had, like, short boyfriends, like, they weren't, like, super tall. But like now looking back at it, I was like, oh, was I settling? Like, should I only go for 6 feet plus?
Yeah.
Just because of all the comparison and like, also, yeah, I feel like that song, it points out a really good thing, which is like, it points out how open and like everyone is to talking about this stuff.
Yeah.
To be like, oh, I only want them if they're like this or like this. And like how it's like almost celebrated to be picky.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so I think lowering the stakes kind of goes two ways. Mm-hmm. We've had the episode where we talk about lowering the stakes if someone asks you out.
Right.
But I think on the other side, speaking as a guy, in our society, the expectation is that the guy makes the first move.
Right.
And I think the goal of this whole episode is for us to kind of explore, for the person initiating, how can we lower the stakes for them? How can they feel less pressure going up to someone and just trying to get to know them better?
Right.
Because right now it's really hard to do that. Mm-hmm. It's, if you know them already, you're scared that you'll ruin the friendship. Mm-hmm. You're scared that you'll end up in the friend zone.
Right.
If you don't know them, you're scared that they're going to just judge you right off the bat. Mm-hmm. And hopefully there's a way where you don't feel pressure on either side.
Right. I feel like a big part of this is like, you know, there's pressure on the people doing the asking out because they're afraid of how the other person will react. Yeah. Like you gave 2 examples of like, you know, when you're friends or when it's somebody like random. And I think I'd like to promote on this podcast for people to just always be respectful and use all the good communication that we keep coming back to like over and over and over again. Because, like, if somebody approaches you, let's say it's your friend, and they are expressing interest, and you're like, oh, crap, like, what do? I don't like them, or whatever it is. I feel like if you communicate what you're feeling in a good, healthy way without trying to put the other person down, without, like, making a joke of it or, like, not taking it seriously, like, validating them, but also saying your piece and being true to yourself, I feel like, in general, if people are better communicators, like, it can lower the stakes for everyone.
Yeah. Definitely. So one thing that I just thought of that is interesting is, let's say you're the person who wants to ask someone out.
Right.
A lot of times the stakes are not only high for you because you're scared the other person will judge you, but a lot of times you're also really picky. Right. And so I have a lot of friends who, before they'll ask anyone out, they need to make sure that they're really attracted physically to the other person. Right. And I think what we're talking about today also applies in that situation where maybe you can ask someone out and maybe you're not physically attracted to them like to like a really
high degree
right off the bat. And maybe you don't know too much about them, but it's okay to ask them out and hang out with them one-on-one even before you call it a date.
Right. So I guess what we're saying is we're trying to lower the stakes for dating and like as a big broad sense and like saying like, you know, don't be super picky, and like the point of it is maybe to just go out there and like experience something, because you never really know. Like if you don't find this girl like super attractive or super not your type, you can still do like a first date and just see like maybe her personality like builds the attraction, or maybe she was like so hot to begin with and then her personality is like a letdown. Yeah. Like I know situations where both of those things have happened. I'm just like, you never really know. So I guess we're saying lower the stakes, take away the pressure, and just like give things a go. Be a little bit more easygoing.
Yeah, I love the way you put that, because the goal of giving things a go is just to get more information early on. And that way you don't buy into delusions and you don't judge someone or put them in a box right off the bat. And so we're not saying when you meet someone, ask them out right away. Right. But if you find someone interesting, you can go and grab coffee with them. And then, like, when you have a better sense of them, if you want to date them, at that point you can ask them out.
True, yeah. Like, you don't have to, like, I think we have had guests in the past who were talking about, you know, wanting to know the perfect right answer and wanting to know that that person's, like, perfect and be decided on them before they even go on a first date. And it's like, you don't have to do that. That puts so much pressure on you. And I feel like if you are feeling pressure, in some way, shape, or form, the other person is going to start feeling like that pressure from you as well. Yeah. Even if you think you're doing your best to hide it. So I guess what we're saying is, like, just take a leap of faith and like don't overthink the first step so much.
Yeah.
Of course, like later on when you're actually a couple and you're actually starting to see each other and you're seeing things maybe that you don't like or that doesn't align with your values, sure, make a different decision then. Keep your stakes high. I'm all in favor for being picky and like making sure you're getting what you want, but at least in the beginning, like it's super cool to just keep the stakes low.
Yeah. And there's 2 ways to start things off. So we talked a lot about going on a first date, taking away the pressure from that. But Sania and I, we've been talking a lot recently about even just hanging out before asking them on a first date. And that's a way that you can lower the pressure too.
Right.
It doesn't just have to be
a formal like date setting.
Asking them out to go on a first date. And I want to explore what happens currently in our current culture. I see a lot of times when someone asks someone else out, they get rejected. It's almost like they can't talk to the other person anymore. And there's this sense of embarrassment or awkwardness.
I think it and also just a lot of disappointment. Because you're just like you have this expectation built up in your mind. And maybe there's people out there that believe in attraction karma like me. So they'll believe that if I'm feeling these feelings so strong, like the other person probably feels them too. And so you're almost not expecting it. Like the rejection. So that's when people start handling it, I think, really, really poorly.
So what would we recommend? Let's say you're the person who wants to make the first move, whether that's asking them out on a first date or hanging out one-on-one to grab coffee or play a sport together. What should your mindset be going in so that result doesn't happen?
I feel like I hate using the word friend because clearly I've been misusing it a lot, but I feel like if you go into a date and you're like, oh, if it goes well, like great, we can start seeing each other, but otherwise, like, okay, that person can just be my friend. Like I witnessed this firsthand. A really close friend of mine went on a date with this guy. He was like not fully her type, but they had a lot of fun on this date, and it was like a group date. Like she brought her friend, he brought his friend. It's just like how it ended up working out. And then like even though they didn't like each other, they're now like a super good friend group. So it's like, I think worst case scenario, you can be like, well, if I don't like them and romantically, we can be friends. Or if they don't like me. Or worst case, like if you don't like their personality at all, that person's no longer in your life. Like which they weren't in your life to begin with. And like you've tried something new, you've learned what you don't like. What
if you're in like the same circles? Maybe you're not close friends, but you know that you'll see them again, and maybe one person is willing to be friends, but then the other person, they don't like the other's personality and they kind of want to like shut things down. That makes it a very awkward situation.
No, totally. I've also sadly experienced this before.
Everyone has.
And I feel like, honestly, I don't know what the best way forward in this situation is, but I feel like if you're at a point where like you've been super disrespected by this, like I guess if things turn negative, for sure cut them out of your life like you would do anybody else. It does not matter if you have mutuals, if you're in the same circle, like it doesn't matter. But if maybe things didn't go so negative, I feel like I have another friend who like dealt with this similar situation in like a healthy way. There was interest, stuff happened, and then there was like okay, we need to pause, like nothing more is going to happen. And like usually people would react really badly in that situation and things could turn negative. But this friend, instead of like keeping on coming back to the same situation, having the same conversations and like dragging out this like ending, he was just really healthy about it. He communicated. He's like, hey, like I need to take some time. Like, this was a lot for me. Maybe it wasn't a lot for you, but like my feelings were there. Like I need to take a second and like just have time to myself. And then by communicating that, he made the other person feel comfortable so she could just like wait and let him take his time and come back. So I feel like communicating and taking space is like a really, really good way to go. So that you don't mess up your whole group of like mutuals if you know each other, but you're still on good terms with each other. Because I feel like if you're on bad terms with each other, like that's gonna also start seeping into your friend group, and like people are gonna notice like shady remarks or like oh, if so-and-so comes to this event, this other person's never there. Like, did you notice that?
Yeah.
Like, so stuff like that. So it's a good way to just, and then, obviously not disrespecting each other if you're in the same group. So if people are like, hey, didn't you used to hang out with her so much? Like, what happened? And you could just be polite. You could be like, yeah, like, things didn't work out. We're just both taking a beat. Like,
yeah.
It does not need to be more deep than that.
Yeah, I love that because that in and of itself lowers the pressure.
Yeah.
When you communicate, there's no more assumptions.
Yeah.
Everyone's on the same page and you can just move on.
And like, we totally understand that it's hard to communicate that.
Yeah.
Like, I have such a hard time communicating that kind of stuff.
But that's like the tricky thing about all of this is it's so hard.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the alternative is actually even harder.
It's way harder.
Like trying to avoid them, not make things awkward, not
pretend that everything's fine.
Yeah,
That's
trying to
favorite.
like take a different bus and arrive at school or work at a different time. It all of that
it's so
stresses
tiring.
You out.
It totally does.
And so just having a conversation, of course, that's super hard.
It is.
We don't take that lightly.
We're not saying it's easy.
But that one is hard at the beginning and then gets easier.
Yes.
The other one is just hard all the time.
It just gets harder and harder and harder. Like, it just keeps increasing.
Yeah, definitely. Mm-hmm. So I think the other part of the solution, so communicating is one big part. I think the other big part is reading the signs well. Mm-hmm. And so if you are the person who you want to be friends, you need to make sure that the other person also wants to be friends.
Right.
And so if they're taking a long time to reply to text now, if they are not really making eye contact, if you talk with them in person and the conversations are very short, they're giving you short answers, that's a sign that you need to back off. It's okay that you want to be friends. I think that is a great mindset to have even after rejection.
Right.
But read the signs. If the other person is pulling away, of course, it's better if they just told you why they're doing that.
Right.
But if you see that and you can tell that they're not willing to have a sit-down conversation to explain that they need to take a beat,
right,
that's a sign for you to also pull away a little bit.
Right.
And it's okay, but that's how you are respectful to them. And you can communicate on your side. You can text them and say, hey, I noticed that you're pulling away. And I just want to let you know that I'm open to still being friends, but I'm going to give you whatever space and time you need. But I hope that we can be friends.
This is something that this podcast has actually helped me a lot with. I think when I was like younger, I would like, I don't know, I had a lot of ego, and I was like, oh, if I send a text and they don't send one back, like, that's it. Or like, they don't deserve to hear my piece. And then now I'm kind of like, my thinking has shifted, and I'm like, you know what? Like, for them, but also to set myself kind of free of that thought and that baggage, just send the text. Let it go blue, let it go green if you're blocked. Like, I don't know, whatever situation you might be in, but just send the text and like say your piece and like empty your bag kind of.
Yeah, I love that because that brings up another misconception in dating where you feel like when you send that text out, you're being very vulnerable, you're exposing yourself.
And it does feel like it in the moment. Ethan has had to hit the send button for me way too many times than I would like to admit.
And I think what we want to challenge is that even if you send that text to communicate and put yourself out there, I genuinely believe that you're taking the power in that situation.
I agree.
And so it's the other person at that point, balls in their court. If they're not communicating well, they're the ones who are not mature enough or are not in the right space.
That's totally true.
But you are the one who, at least for you, have figured things out for yourself and have expressed what you wanted.
I think, that's huge. That's like a big mindset shift that I feel like everyone should experience and feel and get behind. Yeah.
And so that doesn't make sending the text any easier.
It doesn't.
And so in that situation, you can get your friends to help you. That helps a lot. So you don't have to send it yourself. But just keep in mind the text doesn't have to be super long.
Yeah. Keep the stakes low there too.
Yeah, I like that too. Like, you can just say, hey, I had fun on our first date, but we're just better being friends, I think.
Totally.
And it's easy. It can be easy. Don't make it, you don't have to make it into such a big thing. One other thing that I've been thinking a lot about, Sania, about how dating is in our current culture is that a lot of times, I kind of want to ask you, what are the prerequisites before someone asks someone else out?
What are the prerequisites?
So you're in the wild. Let's say this is like in person.
Okay.
What does someone have to check off before they're asked out?
I think my answer is a little bit of a cop-out, and maybe I'm speaking for the girls, because usually it's not, like, common for girls to do the asking out.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I've said before that, like, it's like, you know, you just know them for a really long time, and they have, like, so many of, like, the things that you're looking for in a person that you, like, physically can't keep it to yourself.
Yeah.
But I feel like for guys, it's different. Like, I think it's a lot more accepted for them to just go up to someone here and there, whenever.
So let's speak for the guys for a second. Let's assume that the guy's making the first move. What are they basing the first move off of?
I feel like a lot of times, I hate to say it, but I feel like guys are, like, very, like, guys think with their, like, guys are visual creatures.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of, like, what they're seeing, if they like what they see. And then, you know, if you're very smiley and this and, like, friendly and approachable, they'll be more keen to talking to you, because it makes it feel like there's less likelihood of, like, a no or, like, something super insulting.
Yeah.
Whereas if you have, like, I don't know, like, resting face or something, they're gonna come up to you and they're gonna be, like, they're gonna think, like, so many more times about it, because they're gonna be like, if I try to ask her out, is she gonna, like, make fun of me in front of everyone around her?
Yeah.
So I feel like visuals is the first thing.
So that's exactly the point I was trying to make. And I didn't want to say that. Like, I wanted confirmation from them. And so right now, how dating works is, like, if you like how someone looks, that's the only thing that is getting you to ask someone out. And that's how dating has worked for a long, long time.
Right.
And so I think what I'm proposing in this episode is for there to be more before you ask someone out.
Okay.
And what I mean is, let's say you are at the park and you, like, see someone who you think is really attractive. It's okay that, like, to start from there.
Right.
But that is, like, it can't be, like, the only thing.
Right.
And so I'm also basing this off because I have a lot of friends who physical attraction is just so important that if they're not attracted, they won't even try to get to know the person.
And to those people, I'd like to say attraction builds, like,
Yeah.
as you get to know a person more.
Yeah.
And sometimes it doesn't. Like, Ethan, you've had experiences on when you were seeing people and, like, that you weren't, like, off the bat initially attracted to. And then sometimes it doesn't build. I've had situations where I was like, ew, that person, no way. And then I was attracted to them. So I had to, like, eat my own words.
Yeah.
So I feel like, yeah, I totally agree with you, Ethan. You don't have to just go ask a girl out in the park because she's pretty. You can ask because maybe you like how playful she is and she's hanging out with her dog and she's just, I don't know, not afraid to just laugh and be by herself. I don't know.
And I think the key part in all of that and what I'm proposing is that you allow that to happen. So instead of, like, basing off your first move on how she looks, like, go and get to know her or him better.
Right.
Have a conversation with them. Even before asking for anything, asking for the number, asking to hang out. I think that's a really important part. And people do that. And so on the flip side, also being willing to have conversations with people that you're not attracted to.
Right.
And just seeing how those conversations are. And not just putting someone in a box because you don't find them attractive right off the bat. I think it's important to remember that someone's attractiveness, the physical is a small aspect. Watch episode 20. But what really makes someone attractive in the long run is so much more than that.
Yeah.
It's their personality. It's how they react in hard situations and how they care for you. So make that also part of the process.
Yeah.
Like in trying to date someone. And hopefully your approach is not just
physical,
because and I'm thinking even about school crushes. Like, I'm thinking about my own. The only reason I liked them was because I thought they were hot.
Yeah. I'm thinking the opposite. I'm thinking like so many people that I initially said no to because I didn't find them like physically attractive. Like there was times in history where now I was like obsessed with them just because of their personality.
Yeah.
It's like their personality made their look so much like better to me.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And so maybe what I'm suggesting is that you get to know a person first and just like try to put the physical aside.
Right.
So don't even think about how physically attracted you are to them. And this is like probably already like when you're getting to know someone better. This is not a complete stranger. Of course, like a complete stranger, first impressions are all you have.
Right.
But let's say someone who's in your circles or someone that you've been friends with. Putting the physical aside, just thinking about everything else.
Right.
And then if you're questioning whether or not this could go anywhere, then you could like think, well, do I find them overall attractive? And then go from there. Like that's, I think, when the physical can come in.
Right.
But after you've kind of gotten to know them as a person.
And we're not being delulu here. We're not saying that like the physical won't catch your eye.
Right.
Because it obviously does. And sometimes like, yeah, you're still going to act on the physical and that's totally fine too. But I guess we're saying like, you know, make sure that there's a little bit something more. Or like don't not ask somebody out because you like their personality and maybe you don't like their looks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to talk about pros and cons a little bit? Like
of lowering the stakes?
Yeah.
I feel like a big con that I can think of like right off the bat, sorry to start negative, is that, you know, maybe you'll lower the stakes and then like I feel like I've experienced this that like you'll lower your standards, you'll lower this and that to meet this person where they are and accept them for what they are, and then they still end up hurting you. And then you're just like, I literally brought myself down to here to be with you.
Yeah.
Like you pulled me down with you and now you've left me here.
Yeah.
So that feels extra bad. Whereas if you're up here and you're like meeting with somebody who's also up here and then things don't go well, it's like, it's okay. It feels less bad because you didn't change or you didn't lower your expectations or your standards.
Yeah.
So I feel like that one like hurts a little bit more.
So I think you just brought up something that's really important to talk about, where I think lowering the stakes does not mean lowering your standards.
Okay.
And so you can take pressure off the asking out part and go on a first date, but your standards can still be high.
Okay, true.
And if the personality is not there, if they're not treating you well, they're not treating the wait staff well, you can still, like, at that point, you're like, that's not, this person is not good for me.
Okay, so I guess I'm taking back my con.
No. I think that is a good con, because a lot of times when you lower the stakes and you say yes to a first date, you feel pressure to
lower your standards also.
Yes, and say yes to a second date, and you're trying to see the best in them.
Yeah.
And so this is key, because then you have to navigate this well. And that's why, because we just talked about how the physical, it doesn't need to be so important off the bat. The problem is that how people do that is they're like, okay, well, I'm not so physically attracted to you, I'm going to give you a chance.
Right.
You give that person a chance, and that person is just a and you're like, I just gave this person a chance.
Yeah.
I'm not giving any ugly person a chance
from
anymore.
here on out.
Exactly. And I think what we're saying is a little different than that. We're saying the physical, it's still important depending on yourself. Save that for later. But if the personality, everything else is not right, if there's still a move on. Like,
okay. Fair
you don't
enough.
need to give them more chances.
Right.
I respect you a lot, and you're mature for giving them that first chance. But don't let
it drag out. Right.
Don't let them take advantage of you. So it can be a con. I'm really glad that you brought that up.
Okay, do you want to tell us a pro? I think we have time for just one more pro.
Okay.
Before our end segment.
I just think that you can meet really great people by lowering the stakes. A lot of times we think we know what we want and what's best for us.
True.
But if you look at current dating culture, a lot of times people are just basing off the initial interaction just from physical attraction. You're missing out on all the other things.
This is
so
true.
I feel like if you lower the stakes and you are just open to getting to know people more, saying yes to first dates or first hangouts, and knowing on both sides that might not work out after, you're just giving yourself more chances to meet someone who's really good for you. Someone who will treat you well and will treasure you like you deserve to be treasured. Someone who will take care of you when you're sick. Someone who will sacrifice for you. That's, in the end, that's someone who's going to really make you happy in the long run. And someone that you want to fight for too.
True.
And so this is going to increase your chances to do that.
I totally agree with Ethan.
Yeah.
I think I've talked about this also before. I went on one date that I super, super did not want to go on, like had no energy, no desire, nothing. And it was like one of my best dates to date. So, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I feel really strongly about this, and so we hope that you'll think more on everything that we just talked about. And if you have any comments, please let us know. I think this is a really hot topic, and we're on to something pretty big. And we really want to change how people view dating, because I really think there's a better way to go about all of this. Okay, so we're going to move into our end segment, red flag, green flag. And how this works is we'll have 3 different scenarios. We'll say whether this person, hypothetically, or this characteristic aspect about them, what kind of flag is it? Okay. So we have green, beige, and red. Okay.
Okay.
All right. The first situation, they don't own a car. Red flag, green flag, beige flag.
Okay. 3, 2, 1.
Oh, red flag. Okay.
I think red flag is super, super strong.
Yeah.
But I was like thinking my reasoning in my head because I knew I was going to have to explain it.
Yeah.
Red flag because, well, I don't drive, so in general, it's nice if the guy has a car. And like just for all girls, like it feels nice to be picked up. Like, how are you gonna open the car door for me? Like, I've had people do that for me. Like, you know, if there's like an Uber, but it doesn't hit the same. Also, second reason is that guys look pretty good when they're driving. Like when they do that reverse thing, it looks pretty good. So you should try to get a car. And then the third and main reason why it's a red flag is because like having a car is like a really big financial investment. And like it shows a lot of responsibility. If you can keep a car, you know, you can manage your finances well, you can, you know, deal with the maintenance, deal with like the problems that the car has, and it just shows that you're really like smart and well-rounded in that sense.
Yeah. And Sania's speaking like for the girl's perspective. I'm speaking as the guy's perspective. So of course I say this is a beige flag because we're buying into like social norms a little bit, but I think everything that you brought up is important for a guy, just to show that he is responsible, that he can take care of you. For a girl, I would not expect them to
pick you up and drop you off.
Yeah, and I think it more depends on their lifestyle. Like, they still need a way to get around, and they still need to be responsible and have a way to get groceries and to go see their family and stuff. One thing, just speaking from the girl's perspective, I think that even if a guy doesn't own a car, like maybe finances aren't fully in check, maybe like you're in school or something and the bag has not come, I think you need to at least know how to drive. Yeah. And at least like you can rent a car when you need to take a day trip.
Having like the knowledge of like, oh, this car's making this weird sound. Like what's like, don't look at me if there's something wrong, because I for sure am not going to help, you know? Like, I guess, I don't know, I feel like girls are used to like their dads being around and them taking care of like these things. Like I've never ever seen my mom like ever worry about, like I don't even think she knows what the dashboard looks like. Because she just doesn't pay attention to like, oh, the gas is low, nothing. She just sits there. Like that is her job. She sits, she plans out where they want to go, like that's it. So like I feel like it's nice to be able to just let someone else take like all the pressure, all the stress associated with, you know, not there's a weird alarm signal that, no, we don't need to know it.
Wait, no. You need to put on these glasses right now.
I'm like throwing my mom under the bus.
Okay, and I'm not Sania's mom. I don't mean to just say like this. This is overall like everyone should have like just some awareness for this stuff. It doesn't even mean cars, but like even knowing how credit cards work, or even knowing how to use a coffee machine at work. It's like
that's like 2 on me.
Like even if you're a girl, you should know like when the gas is getting low.
Fine.
So
it feels nicer. It shows a good trait in a man if he knows knowledge about cars. Like you said, even the ability to take a rental car.
Yeah, but that's where I was going. You took it a completely different way.
I'm meeting you in the middle, okay?
Okay. So I think for guys, we're just saying you should know what to do to take care of a girl well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm happy with that.
Okay, car or no car?
This next one should be a lot more straightforward.
Okay.
Less, I don't know.
Really?
At least I think. Okay, red flag or green flag if the person that you're talking to or interested in has a messy room. Ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right. 3, 2, 1. I'm doing double negative. That's
double red flag. I'm saying beige flag.
How are you staying beige? Can you please explain how you could be content walking into a room that has like half-eaten food and clothes on the floor?
Oh. Okay, no, half-eaten food is like
orange juice spilled on the mattress, like all kinds of fun stuff.
Okay, I guess maybe we had different ideas for a messy room.
Well, okay, I'm using my experiences with with clean roommates that I've lived with.
Yeah.
Not even like I've lived with messy roommates, but then I've lived with a clean roommate, and like this was the condition of the clean roommate.
Oh my god.
So I'm just like, I don't know what you've seen, but maybe I've seen a lot worse.
Yeah. And I think this is like something that's really interesting that I didn't know about before, but girls can be just as messy as guys.
Worse. I think girls are worse.
And not always, because I know like Sania, you're very clean. You keep things very neat and tidy. And so I guess, okay, it's definitely a red flag. I changed my mind. I guess I was thinking about situations where it's not super messy. I'm thinking about like clothes
here and
all
there.
around.
Okay.
I'm thinking about
like clothes. Like I know I've been to people's rooms, many people, too many people that I care to even list.
Yeah.
Like you can't even make it to anywhere. You have to you can't get around the clothes.
Okay. So
but there's no more floor.
I was just gonna say if there's like clothes everywhere, you can still like walk around. Maybe the desk and the dresser is cluttered. I'm saying that's okay.
So you're saying cluttered. You're not necessarily saying like a big mess.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think I took it differently. I guess from the girl's perspective, I have never seen a guy's room. I've never seen that many guys' rooms.
Way to save yourself.
I've never seen, I have a brother and my dad, I know how they keep their stuff. I have cousins. I've never seen any of my males in my life have clothes on the floor.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
I've seen it in tons of females, but never ever for males. So I think messy from my perspective is I think guys tend to be dirty sometimes. Everything's put away, but hey, when was the last time you washed your sheets? It's just I don't know if he knows how often you need to wash a towel.
Yeah.
Fine, I keep saying brother. It could even be boys that I've talked to. I have no idea. When was the last time you vacuumed your carpet? Do you know you have to do you even own a vacuum? So stuff like that. And the reason that it is a red flag is because I know that eventually I'm going to be sharing a space with you, and I will literally not let you in my space if you are not clean.
Yeah.
If you are coming to make a mess, if you're expecting that I'm going to baby you and clean up after, that's a red flag.
Yeah.
You should learn to keep yourself and your things clean and tidy.
Totally agree with that. Okay, last one. They are close to their siblings. So let's say they can call their siblings their friend.
Okay.
Like a close friend.
Okay. 3, 2, 1.
Okay.
I think we all obviously know why it's a good thing, why it's a green flag. Because it means they have a good relationship with their family. I feel like your siblings your first best friend.
Do you think it can ever get too much?
Yes.
Too close?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've definitely been around people that are a little too comfortable with their siblings and a little too... I feel they sometimes the boundaries get a little hazy. Or I've just definitely been around people that will choose their sibling over their significant other.
Oh.
My sibling needs me. I can't talk to you right now. My sister's calling. oh no, like I need to go do this for my sibling. Like, and sometimes I err on that side too, because like I feel like my family is like the most important thing. But then it's just like, obviously if you're in a more serious relationship, you know, you'll commit more to the person rather than your family.
Yeah.
But in the early days, like, yeah, sometimes people will go more towards their siblings and what they want and what they need compared to like what their partner needs, which could be kind of bad.
Yeah. All I will say for this one is if you want to have a pretty good idea of how someone will treat you, see how they treat their siblings and what kind of relationship they have with them. Of course, if the age gap is huge and they never knew their siblings super well, that's not a good sign. But at least, like, if they have siblings close to their age, see and ask what their dynamic is like, and that'll tell you a lot. So overall, it's really good if they have a good relationship. Cool. That was a fun episode. I think that, at least for me, this episode I feel really strongly about. And this is why I wanted to do this podcast in the first place, to send out messages like these about how we can together start changing dating culture and how we approach relationships in a more healthy way. So I really hope, or we really hope, that you got a lot out of this. Do you have anything else? Okay, well, we'll catch you guys in the next one.